When Maya first saw the listing online, she couldn't believe the price. A room in a nice suburban house for half what she'd pay for a tiny apartment near campus. It seemed too good to be true. But there it was, a cozy bedroom with good natural light, access to a full kitchen, and a kind-looking older woman in the photos standing next to a beautiful garden. Maya had been searching for affordable housing for weeks. As a graduate student working on her master's degree, every dollar mattered. Her savings were running low, and the dorm rooms were not only expensive, but also too noisy for someone who needed quiet time to study and write her thesis. This house seemed like the perfect solution. The first meeting with Mrs. Liu went better than Maya had hoped. The elderly woman greeted her at the door with a warm smile and immediately offered her tea. The house was spotless and smelled like fresh flowers. Mrs. Liu showed her around with obvious pride, pointing out the modern appliances, the comfortable living room with big windows, and the peaceful backyard where she grew vegetables and herbs. Mrs. Liu spoke English well, though with a gentle accent that made her sound even more motherly. She explained that she had moved to America 5 years ago to be closer to her children. After her husband passed away, the house felt too big for just one person, she said, and she thought having a young student around would bring some life back to the place. During their conversation, Maya learned that Mrs. Liu had raised 4 children back in her home country. She was clearly proud of them. They were all successful now, with good jobs and families of their own. But they were busy with their lives. And Mrs. Liu admitted she sometimes felt lonely in the big, quiet house. Maya felt a connection with the older woman right away. There was something comforting about Mrs. Liu's gentle manner, and the way she seemed genuinely interested in Maya's studies. When Mrs. Liu asked about her family and her plans for the future, it felt more like talking to a caring aunt than a potential landlord. The room itself was perfect for Maya's needs. It was larger than she had expected, with a comfortable bed, a good-sized desk by the window, and plenty of storage space. Mrs. Liu had even added some nice touches, soft curtains, a reading lamp, and a small bookshelf that Maya could use for her textbooks and research materials. When they discussed the practical details, Mrs. Liu was very reasonable. The rent included utilities, and Maya would have access to the kitchen and living areas. There was one bathroom they would share, but Mrs. Liu assured her that wouldn't be a problem since she was usually up early and went to bed early too. Mrs. Liu seemed excited about having Maya as a tenant. She talked about how nice it would be to have someone young in the house again, and how she could help Maya with cooking if she wanted to learn some traditional recipes. Maya found this offer sweet and welcoming, though she was usually too busy with her studies to spend much time cooking. Before Maya left that day, Mrs. Liu gave her a small container of homemade dumplings to take back to her current place. It was such a thoughtful gesture that Maya felt even more confident about her decision. Here was someone who would be more than just a landlord. She seemed like she could become a friend. Maya moved in the following weekend. Mrs. Liu helped her carry boxes and seemed genuinely happy to have her there. She showed Maya where everything was in the kitchen, gave her a key to the house, and explained her daily routine so they could coordinate their use of shared spaces. The first few days were wonderful. Maya enjoyed the quiet atmosphere, perfect for studying. Mrs. Liu was respectful and kept to herself most of the time. In the mornings, Maya would find that Mrs. Liu had already been up for hours, tending to her garden or preparing breakfast. The older woman would smile and wave when she saw Maya getting ready for school, sometimes offering her fruit from the garden or asking if she had eaten enough breakfast. Maya appreciated these small gestures of care. It reminded her of living with her own grandmother when she was younger. Mrs. Liu seemed to have that same nurturing instinct that made Maya feel welcome and looked after. In the evenings, they would sometimes chat in the kitchen while Maya made simple dinners. Mrs. Liu would share stories about her children or her garden, and Maya would tell her about her classes and research. These conversations were pleasant and helped Maya feel less isolated in a new city where she didn't know many people. Everything seemed to be working out perfectly. Maya had found affordable housing with a kind landlady who treated her almost like family. The house was peaceful, the room was comfortable, and Maya felt like she could focus on her studies without worrying about noisy neighbors or financial stress. But as the first week turned into the second, Maya began to notice some small things that seemed a bit unusual. Nothing major, just little details that made her wonder if Mrs. Liu's idea of sharing space might be different from her own. The first sign that something was different happened on a Tuesday morning. Maya had rushed out to catch an early bus to campus, leaving her room in its usual organized mess, textbooks scattered on her desk, a coffee mug half empty, and her bed unmade. She had 3 back-to-back classes and a meeting with her advisor, so she didn't return home until late afternoon. When she opened her bedroom door, she stopped in surprise. Everything was perfectly clean. Her bed was made with hospital corners she could never achieve. Her books were stacked in neat piles by subject. Her coffee mug was gone, presumably washed and put away. Even her small pile of clean laundry that she had been meaning to fold was now organized in her dresser drawers. Maya stood there for a moment, trying to process what she was seeing. Had someone broken it? But nothing was missing. In the front door had been locked when she came home. Then she heard Mrs. Liu humming in the kitchen and realized what must have happened. She found Mrs. Liu preparing dinner, chopping vegetables with practiced efficiency. The older woman looked up with a bright smile when Maya entered the kitchen. "Oh, you're home. How were your classes today? You work so hard, always with those heavy books." Maya tried to find the right words. "Mrs. Liu, did you clean my room today?" Mrs. Liu's face lit up with pride. "Yes, I saw how tired you were this morning, rushing around. I thought I would help you. Your room looks much better now, don't you think?" Maya felt a mix of gratitude and discomfort. The gesture was clearly meant to be kind, but the idea of someone going through her personal space while she was away felt strange. "That was very thoughtful of you, but you really don't need to do that. I can take care of my own room." Mrs. Liu waved her hand dismissively. "Nonsense. You are like family now. In my country, we take care of each other. My daughters, when they lived at home, I always helped them keep their rooms nice. It makes me happy to help you too." Maya didn't want to seem ungrateful, especially when Mrs. Liu was being so kind. "I appreciate it, I really do. But I'm comfortable with my room the way I keep it. Maybe next time you could just let me know before you clean." Mrs. Liu nodded, but Maya could see some confusion in her eyes. Of course. I just want to help you succeed in your studies. A clean room helps the mind think clearly, you know." Over the next few days, Maya thought the conversation had solved the problem. But then she started noticing other small things. Her bathroom items were being rearranged. Her towel was being replaced with a fresh one every day, even when she had only used it once. Her desk supplies were being organized in ways that didn't match how she preferred to work. The situation became more puzzling when Maya began finding evidence that Mrs. Liu was entering her room even when these helpful tasks weren't being done. She would come home to find her window open for fresh air, or her curtains adjusted to let in more light. Sometimes she would discover that her houseplant had been watered, even though she had a specific schedule for caring for it. Maya started paying closer attention to these intrusions. She began to notice that Mrs. Liu seemed to have a very different understanding of personal space than what Maya was used to. The older woman would enter Maya's room without knocking, usually with some helpful purpose in mind. She would come in to dust surfaces that weren't dusty, or to check if Maya needed anything, or simply to see how she was doing. One evening, Maya returned from the library to find Mrs. Liu sitting on her bed, folding clothes that Maya had left in a basket. The older woman was humming softly and seemed completely comfortable in Maya's private space. "Oh, hello, dear," Mrs. Liu said cheerfully. "I was just helping with your laundry. You work so hard. You shouldn't have to worry about these little things." Maya felt her patience beginning to wear thin, but she tried to remain polite. "Mrs. Liu, I really appreciate your help, but I need you to ask before coming into my room. This is my private space. Double quotes. Mrs. Liu looked hurt and confused. but I am just trying to help. In my family, we don't have so many walls between us. My children, they never minded when I took care of their things. You are living in my house now. We are like family. Maya realized they were approaching the situation from completely different perspectives. For Mrs. Liu, her behavior was natural and caring. For Maya, who had grown up with clear boundaries about personal space, it felt like an invasion of privacy. I understand you want to help, Maya said carefully. But in my culture, we usually keep our bedrooms as private spaces. Even in families, we knock before entering someone else's room. Mrs. Liu seemed to consider this, but Maya could see she didn't really understand why it mattered. Your culture is very different, she said slowly. But you are young. Maybe you don't understand yet how good it feels to be taken care of. I raised 4 children, and they were always happy when I helped them. Maya felt stuck between not wanting to hurt Mrs. Liu's feelings and needing to establish some boundaries. The older woman's intentions were clearly good, but Maya was beginning to feel like she had no private space in the house. The problem continued to escalate in small ways over the following days. Maya would find Mrs. Liu in her room at unexpected times, watering the plant that didn't need water, organizing books that were already organized the way Maya wanted them, or simply sitting in the room doing some small task while Maya was away. Each time, Mrs. Liu had a reasonable explanation. She was just being helpful. She was treating Maya like family. She was doing what any caring person would do. But Maya was starting to feel like she was living in someone else's space, rather than renting her own room. The situation was becoming more complicated than Maya had expected when she first fell in love with the beautiful house and the kind landlady. The morning that everything changed started like any other stressful day. In Maya's graduate school life, her alarm hadn't gone off properly, and she woke up 20 minutes later than planned. She had an important presentation that day for her research seminar, something she had been preparing for weeks. Her advisor would be there, along with several other professors who would be evaluating her work. Maya jumped out of bed in a panic, grabbing her clothes and toiletries. She had exactly 40 minutes to get ready and catch the bus to campus. There was no time for her usual careful morning routine. She needed to shower, get dressed, grab her presentation materials, and run. She rushed to the bathroom, grateful that Mrs. Liu seemed to still be asleep. The house was quiet, and Maya thought she might actually make it to campus on time if she hurried. She turned on the shower water, waiting for it to warm up while she quickly brushed her teeth. The hot water felt amazing as she stepped under the shower head. For just a moment, Maya let herself relax despite the time pressure. The presentation would go fine, she told herself. She had practiced it dozens of times. She just needed to stay calm and get through her morning routine. She had just started washing her hair when she heard the bathroom door open. Maya froze, soap running down her face. She must have forgotten to lock the door in her rush. She assumed Mrs. Liu had walked in by mistake and would quickly leave. When she realized the bathroom was occupied, "Hello, someone's in here," Maya called out, trying to keep her voice friendly but clear. Instead of hearing footsteps leaving, she heard Mrs. Liu's cheerful voice. "Oh good, you're awake. I was worried you might be late for your important day." Maya couldn't believe what was happening. Mrs. Liu was not only still in the bathroom, but she seemed to be settling in for a conversation. Maya could hear her moving around, apparently organizing things on the bathroom counter. "Mrs. Liu, I'm taking a shower right now," Maya said, hoping the older woman would understand and leave. "Yes, I can see that, dear. Don't worry about me. I brought you some fresh towels. The ones you've been using looked a bit old. And I wanted to ask you about dinner tonight. Should I make something special since you have your big presentation?" Today Maya stood there with shampoo in her hair, completely stunned. Mrs. Liu was having a casual conversation with her while she was completely undressed in the shower. This went far beyond anything Maya could have imagined when it came to boundary issues. "Mrs. Liu, I really need some privacy right now. Could we please talk about this later?" Maya tried to keep her voice calm, but she was starting to feel panicked. Mrs. Liu laughed, a sound that seemed genuinely amused rather than mean. "Oh, you young people are so shy. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. I raised 4 children. You know, I've seen everything there is to see. We're both women. What's the big deal?" Maya realized that Mrs. Liu genuinely didn't understand why this situation was inappropriate from the older woman's perspective. This was probably just another example of taking care of someone like family. But Maya felt completely exposed and uncomfortable. "I know you raised children," Maya said, trying to rinse the soap from her hair as quickly as possible. "But I'm not your child. I really need you to leave the bathroom right now." Mrs. Liu seemed hurt by this response. "I'm just trying to take care of you. You seemed so stressed this morning, rushing around. I thought I could help you prepare for your big day. What kind of food do you want for dinner? Something healthy to help you feel strong." The conversation continued for what felt like forever, but was probably only about 10 minutes. Mrs. Liu talked about meal plans, asked about Maya's presentation topic, and gave advice about staying calm during important academic events, all while Maya stood trapped in the shower, trying to finish washing while dealing with the most awkward situation of her adult life. When Maya finally finished her shower, Mrs. Liu handed her a fresh towel with a bright smile. "There you go, dear. Now you'll be nice and clean for your presentation. I'm sure you'll do wonderfully today." Maya wrapped the towel around herself and tried to figure out how to handle the situation. Mrs. Liu was standing there looking proud of her helpfulness, completely unaware that anything unusual had happened. Maya felt angry, embarrassed, and confused all at the same time. "Mrs. Liu, we need to talk about this," Maya said, her voice shaking slightly. "What just happened is not okay. I need privacy when I'm in the bathroom, especially when I'm showering." Mrs. Liu's expression became puzzled and a little defensive. "I don't understand why you're upset. I was just being helpful. In my family, we don't make such a big deal about these things. My daughters never acted this way when I tried to help them." Maya realized this conversation wasn't going to be resolved quickly, and she was already running late for her presentation. "We'll talk about this tonight," she said firmly. "But please, in the future, do not come into the bathroom when I'm using it." Mrs. Liu nodded, but Maya could see she was hurt and confused. "Of course, if that's what you want. I was just trying to be a good landlady and take care of you." Maya got dressed as quickly as possible and grabbed her presentation materials. As she rushed out of the house, she couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. The shower incident had crossed a line that Maya didn't even know existed. Until it was crossed, she spent the bus ride to campus trying to focus on her presentation. But her mind kept returning to the uncomfortable situation at home. How was she going to address this with Mrs. Liu? The older woman clearly didn't understand why Maya was upset, and Maya wasn't sure how to explain it without sounding ungrateful or culturally insensitive. The presentation went well, but Maya couldn't fully enjoy her success. She kept thinking about the conversation she would need to have with Mrs. Liu that evening. Something had to change, but Maya wasn't sure what that change would look like. Maya spent the entire day after the shower incident thinking about what she would say to Mrs. Liu. She practiced different approaches while walking between classes, rehearsed conversations in her head during lunch, and even wrote down key points she wanted to make. She knew this conversation could determine whether she could continue living in the house or would have to find somewhere else to go. The problem was finding the right balance. Maya didn't want to hurt Mrs. Liu's feelings. The older woman was genuinely kind and meant well, but she also couldn't continue living in a situation where she had no privacy. The shower incident had made that crystal clear. Maya decided to approach the conversation with respect and understanding. She would explain American cultural norms around privacy, acknowledge Mrs. Liu's good intentions, and hopefully find a way forward that worked for both of them. When Maya got home that evening, she found Mrs. Liu in the kitchen preparing what looked like a feast. There were dumplings steaming in a bamboo basket, vegetables stir-frying in a wok, and the wonderful smell of garlic and ginger filling the air. Mrs. Liu looked up with a warm smile. "How did your presentation go today? I made your favorite dumplings." To celebrate, Maya felt her heart sink. Mrs. Liu was being so thoughtful and caring, which would make this conversation even more difficult. The presentation went well, thank you, Mrs. Liu. Could we sit down and talk for a few minutes? The older woman immediately looked concerned. Of course, dear. Is everything okay? You look worried. They sat at the kitchen table, and Maya took a deep breath. She had planned to start gently, but she wasn't sure how to begin without sounding ungrateful. Mrs. Liu, I really appreciate how kind you've been to me. You've made me feel welcome here, and I'm grateful for everything you do. But I need to talk to you about privacy and personal space. Double quotes. Mrs. Liu's expression became guarded. Is this about this morning? I told you, there's nothing to be ashamed about. I was just trying to help you get ready for your important day. Maya tried to explain. I know you were trying to help, and I appreciate that. But in American culture, we have different ideas about privacy. When someone is in the bathroom, especially when they're showering, we need complete privacy. It's not about shame. It's about personal boundaries. Mrs. Liu looked confused and a little hurt. But we are like family now. In my culture, family takes care of each other. We don't build walls between people who care about each other. Maya could see this was going to be more complicated than she had hoped. I understand that, and I respect your culture. But I'm not actually your family. I'm your tenant, and I need some basic privacy in my living space. The hurt in Mrs. Liu's eyes deepened. So you don't want me to take care of you? You don't want me to help you succeed? I thought we had something special, like a grandmother and granddaughter relationship. Maya felt terrible seeing Mrs. Liu's reaction, but she knew she had to be clear. I do appreciate your care. I really do. But taking care of someone doesn't mean entering their private spaces without permission. In America, even family members knock before entering each other's bedrooms and bathrooms. Mrs. Liu was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could see her processing this information. Finally, she spoke, her voice smaller than usual. So American families don't really care for each other the way we do in my country? Maya tried to explain the difference. It's not that we don't care. We just show care in different ways. We respect each other's privacy as a way of showing love and respect. Mrs. Liu shook her head sadly. This seems so cold to me. When my children lived at home, I could go into their rooms anytime. I knew everything about their lives. We were close. Now they live far away and call me once a week if I'm lucky. Maybe if I had given them more privacy, they would have stayed distant anyway. Maya realized that Mrs. Liu's behavior wasn't just about cultural differences. It was also about loneliness and her relationship with her own children. The older woman was trying to recreate the close family bonds she had lost. Mrs. Liu, privacy doesn't mean people don't care about each other. Your children love you, I'm sure. But even people who love each other need some personal space. Mrs. Liu looked at Maya with sad eyes. You know, when I first came to this country, I thought I would understand Americans better by now. But everything is so different. The way you live, the way you think about family, the way you keep parts of yourselves locked away from people who care about you. Maya felt torn between sympathy and frustration. She could see that Mrs. Liu was genuinely struggling to understand. But she also felt like her basic needs weren't being heard. I'm not trying to lock you out of my life, Maya said carefully. I just need some basic boundaries. I need to know that when I'm in my room with the door closed, you won't come in unless it's an emergency. I need to know that when I'm in the bathroom, I have complete privacy. Mrs. Liu was quiet for a while, stirring her tea slowly. And if I give you this privacy, will you still let me care for you in other ways? Will you still eat dinner with me sometimes and tell me about your day? Maya felt relieved that Mrs. Liu seemed to be understanding. Of course, I enjoy our conversations. I just need them to happen in the common areas of the house, not in my private spaces. But over the next few days, Maya realized that understanding and implementing change were two different things. Mrs. Liu tried to respect Maya's requests, but she clearly struggled with it. She would start to enter Maya's room, then catch herself and knock instead. But even when she knocked, she didn't wait for an answer before opening the door. Maya also noticed that Mrs. Liu seemed sadder and more distant. The older woman was trying to give Maya the space she had asked for, but it seemed to be making her feel rejected and lonely. The situation became even more complicated when Mrs. Liu's eldest son, David, came to visit the following weekend. Maya could hear them talking in the living room, and though they were speaking in their native language, she could tell from their tone that they were discussing her. Later that evening, David knocked on Maya's door. He was a man in his 40s, well-dressed and polite, but Maya could sense some tension in his manner. "Hi, I'm David, Mrs. Liu's son. Could I talk to you for a minute?" Maya invited him to sit down in the living room, and David got straight to the point. "My mother tells me you're having some problems with how she takes care of the house." Maya tried to explain her perspective, but David seemed to have already made up his mind. "Look, I understand you're young and you probably want your independence. But my mother has been incredibly generous to you. She's charging you way below market rate for rent. She cooks for you. She cleans for you. Most landlords wouldn't do half of what she does." Maya felt frustrated that David was framing this as a matter of ingratitude rather than basic privacy rights. "I'm very grateful for everything your mother does. I just need some basic boundaries about my personal space." David shook his head. "In our culture, when someone opens their home to you, you become part of the family. You don't get to pick and choose which parts of family life you want to participate in." Maya realized that David didn't understand the situation any better than his mother did. To them, Maya's requests for privacy seemed ungrateful and cold. To Maya, their behavior felt invasive and overwhelming. The conversation with David left Maya feeling more isolated and confused than ever. She wondered if she was being unreasonable, if her cultural background was making her to focus on individual rights rather than community care. But even when she tried to see things from Mrs. Liu's perspective, she couldn't get comfortable with the idea of having no private space in her own home. After the conversation with David, Maya felt more lost than ever. She spent several sleepless nights wondering if she should just move out. Maybe she and Mrs. Liu were just too different to live together peacefully, but finding new housing mid-semester would be difficult and expensive, and despite everything, Maya had grown fond of the kind older woman. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Maya was complaining about the situation to her study group partner, Jennifer, who had grown up in a multicultural household. Jennifer listened to the whole story and then asked a simple question. That changed Maya's perspective completely. "Have you tried showing Mrs. Liu what you need instead of just telling her?" Maya didn't understand what Jennifer meant at first. "I've explained it several times. She just doesn't seem to get it." Jennifer smiled. "My grandmother is from the Philippines, and she had similar issues when she first moved in with us. Talking didn't work, but demonstrations did. Maybe Mrs. Liu needs to see what American privacy looks like, not just hear about it." That evening, Maya decided to try a different approach. Instead of having another conversation about boundaries, she would show Mrs. Liu what she meant. When Maya got home, she found Mrs. Liu in the kitchen as usual. "Mrs. Liu, could you help me with something? I want to show you something about American culture." Mrs. Liu immediately perked up, always eager to learn and help. "Of course, dear. What do you need?" Maya led her to Maya's bedroom door. "In American families, this is how we show respect for each other's space." Maya knocked on her own door and waited a moment before opening it. "See, even though this is my room, I knock and wait for permission. This shows that I respect the person inside." Mrs. Liu looked puzzled but interested. "But it's your own room. Why would you knock?" Maya had an idea. "Let me show you. Could you go into your bedroom and close the door? I want to demonstrate something." Mrs. Liu went to her room, and Maya knocked on the door. "Mrs. Liu, may I come in?" "Yes, come in." Mrs. Liu called back. Maya entered and found Mrs. Liu sitting on her bed, looking curious. "See how I waited for your permission? And see how you felt comfortable saying yes because you knew I would respect your answer." Something seemed to click for Mrs. Liu. "So the knocking is like asking permission." "Exactly. It's not about not caring about each other. It's about showing respect." Maya demonstrated again by asking if she could look at a photo on Mrs. Liu's dresser. Before touching it, Mrs. Liu seemed genuinely intrigued by this approach. "This is like the tea ceremony," she said thoughtfully. "We have many steps and rules. Not because we don't want people to enjoy tea, but because the ceremony shows respect and care." Maya felt excited that Mrs. Liu was starting to understand. "Yes, it's exactly like that. The privacy rules aren't about pushing people away. They're about showing care and respect." Over the next few days, Maya continued these little demonstrations. She would knock on bathroom doors and wait for responses. She would ask before moving things on shared surfaces. She showed Mrs. Liu how she organized her personal items and explained why she preferred to keep certain things arranged in specific ways. Gradually, Mrs. Liu began to understand that privacy wasn't about rejection. It was about respect. She started knocking on Maya's door and actually waiting for a response. She began asking before rearranging Maya's things or entering her spaces. But Maya also realized she needed to meet Mrs. Liu halfway. The older woman genuinely needed to feel useful and connected, and Maya's request for privacy had been making her feel shut out and lonely. Maya came up with a solution that addressed both their needs. "Mrs. Liu, I have an idea. What if we set up specific times when we spend time together and specific times when we each have private time?" Mrs. Liu looked interested but uncertain. "What do you mean?" Maya explained her plan. "What if every evening from 6 to 7 we have family time in the kitchen or living room? You could teach me about your culture. We could cook together. We could just talk. During that time, I'm completely available and we can spend quality time together." Mrs. Liu smiled at this idea. "I would like that very much, and you're private. Time after 9 at night and before 8 in the morning. Those could be private hours where we stay in our own rooms unless there's an emergency. And any time someone's bedroom or bathroom door is closed, that means private time too." Mrs. Liu nodded slowly. "So I would still get to take care of you and spend time with you, but in a more organized way." "Exactly. And it might actually make our time together more special because it would be planned and focused." They decided to try this system for a week. The results were better than Maya had hoped. During their designated family time, Mrs. Liu was attentive and caring, and Maya was relaxed and receptive. They cooked traditional dishes together, with Mrs. Liu teaching Maya techniques her own mother had taught her decades ago. Maya discovered that Mrs. Liu had fascinating stories about her life. She had been a teacher in her home country, had survived difficult times during political upheavals, and had made the brave decision to move to America in her 70s to be closer to her children. Maya found herself genuinely enjoying these conversations and learning a lot about resilience and family loyalty. During private times, Maya could study without interruption, take long showers without unexpected visitors, and organize her room the way she preferred. Mrs. Liu used her private time to video call with friends back home, tend to her garden, and pursue her own hobbies like calligraphy. The system wasn't perfect at first. Mrs. Liu sometimes forgot and would start to enter Maya's room during private time, but she learned to catch herself and remember the new rules. Maya sometimes had to remind herself to be fully present during family time, instead of thinking about her homework or other distractions. But gradually, both women found that the structured approach actually improved their relationship. Mrs. Liu felt appreciated and included during family time, and Maya felt respected and comfortable during private time. The real test came when David visited again a month later. Maya was nervous about seeing him, remembering their tense conversation from his previous visit. But this time, David seemed surprised and pleased by what he found. He saw Maya and his mother cooking together, laughing and talking comfortably. He noticed that Maya seemed relaxed and happy, and his mother seemed more cheerful than she had been during his last visit. "It looks like you to have worked things out," he said to Maya with a genuine smile. Maya nodded. "Your mother and I learned to understand each other better. She's been teaching me so much about cooking and life wisdom. I feel very lucky to live here." Mrs. Liu beamed with pride. Maya's like the granddaughter I never had nearby. We take care of each other now, but in the American way too. By the end of the school year, Maya and Mrs. Liu had developed a strong relationship based on mutual respect and understanding. Maya had learned about patience, cultural flexibility, and the value of intergenerational relationships. Mrs. Liu had learned about American concepts of privacy and individual space, but had also discovered that privacy didn't mean loneliness. When Maya eventually graduated and prepared to move to a different city for a job, both women were sad to see their arrangement end. Mrs. Liu had become like family to Maya, and Maya had brought joy and purpose back into Mrs. Liu's daily life. The experience taught both of them that cultural differences don't have to be barriers to friendship and mutual care. Sometimes they just require creativity, patience, and willingness to learn from each other. Maya learned that privacy and connection aren't opposites. They can actually support each other. When balanced properly, years later, Maya still kept in touch with Mrs. Liu, sending photos of her new life and calling on important holidays. And Mrs. Liu had successfully applied the lessons she learned with Maya to build better relationships with future tenants, creating a home environment that felt both caring and respectful.